Hey everybody, welcome back to Girl Talk. Thanks so much for joining me. As always, before we get started, if you could give me a like, share, thumbs up, comment, all that other good stuff, I would appreciate it. So we're going to get right into the Lindsay Clancy trial, day 22, and we are now on a verdict watch. Yesterday, the jury got it. So this is what went down. And before I get into that, going forward, what I would like to do is when the verdict does come down, I'm not a big fan of recording the audio. I wasn't happy with the sound of the audio. But when the verdict comes down, we will listen to it, and then I will go into a separate stream and have my final thoughts on it, because I do have a lot of thoughts on this, but I wanted to wait until the trial was over. So the recap was they did their morning stuff, and then let's see, jury brought in, court formally opened session, judge explained structure of the day. So jury instructions are part one, closing arguments, and then the jury instructions part two. The jury received printed instructions. Judge delivered part one jury instructions, which were criminal responsibility, murder charges, and manslaughter. And then judge invited closing arguments. So out of jury presence, all proceeds occurred with the jury present until deliberations. No witnesses testified on day 22. And the closing arguments. The defense closing was attorney Kevin Reddington. Key factual points presented to the jury. Acknowledges juror services and emotional difficulty. Argues Lindsay Clancy suffered a severe mental disease or defect at the time of the killings. Emphasizes extensive medication history. Documented postpartum depression and psychosis symptoms. Suicide attempt severity, which were slashed wrist, throat, and fall from the window. He challenges Commonwealth's experts, claims government experts minimize psychosis, highlights testimony from Dr. Resnick, Dr. Cecil, Dr. Carney, and Dr. Condi, argues police investigation was incomplete, uncollected items, pill residue, and the screen, argues that Lindsay's journals, texts, and medical records show deterioration, argues she was a loving mother with no history of wrongdoing, argues voices were reported early to chaplain Sheila and they were not fabricated, argues the Commonwealth failed to prove she was not suffering from a mental disease or defect beyond a reasonable doubt, and requests the verdict not guilty by reason of lack of criminal responsibility. And then the Commonwealth closing was ADA Jennifer Sprague. I might be saying that wrong. Key factual points presented to the jury. Concedes Lindsay had mental illness and attempted suicide. Not the issue. The issue was, did she know right from wrong at the time of the killings? Argues that Lindsay demonstrated planning and deliberate steps, such as searches for timing, the CVS call, and the dinner order, controlled behavior during the day, the doctor visits, text, and photos, ability to hide homicidal thoughts from providers, argues she intentionally created opportunity by sending Patrick out, argues timeline shows killings occurred immediately after Patrick left, not after the phone call, argues voice narrative is inconsistent and unsupportive by medical records, argues she made choices. She chose the method, which were the exercise bands. She chose the order of the children, and she chose to hide actions during the phone call. Argues she knew actions were wrong because she asked for a lawyer, concealed thoughts, And the request verdict is guilty of murder in the first degree, which is deliberate premeditation and extreme atrocity and cruelty. And then the jury instructions part 2. Judge Sullivan delivers final instructions. Presumption of innocence, burden of proof is reasonable doubt, moral certainty, the role of judge versus jury, evidence definitions, direct and circumstantial, credibility assessments, expert witness evaluation, defendant's right not to testify, consciousness of guilt evidence, use of exhibits, view of the crime scene, prohibition on outside communication, verdict slip explained. It says not guilty by reason of lack of criminal responsibility, murder 1, which is premeditated, extreme atrocity, murder 2, or manslaughter. And then the jury was sent out for deliberations. So jury reduced from 18 to 12 deliberating jurors, 6 alternates selected. Verdict slips instructions were repeated. Jury sworn and sent to deliberate. Jury excused for the day, instructed to return at 9 a.m. and then court recesses until the next morning. Again, no new exhibits were admitted. And then the court recessed until 9 o'clock. So they will be back in at 9 o'clock. And here were some of the opinions on Reddit. This one says, I've had 2 close friends hospitalized due to suicide attempt and psychosis. Something both of them said was that out of all their perceived reality, about 30% of it was real, 70% of was not. But there was no way to distinguish what was real or not. They were both sleep-deprived days leading up to the attempt. One was using drugs a lot at the time, the other was on mental health-related medication. They were both paranoid days and weeks before and stated to only hear the male voice's command on the day of attempt. After waking up in the hospital, it was gone and never came back, but the paranoia lasted longer. Like people hearing their thoughts, couldn't trust anyone because everyone was out to get them, including family and friends, etc. I knew they weren't doing the best, but we texted a lot. I was trying to be supportive and motivating. I went over the text so many times later to see how I could have missed it. Easily. There were so many incredibly paranoid that most of the communication was fake and very few, quote unquote, my housemate is hiding my food from me or some weird stuff like that. I hope the jury got the idea what experienced psychosis actually is like. Looking at the old men testifying felt like we're back at the times of witch trials. Exception being Red himself. And then here's just a few that were on Newsweek. It said from 2023, but has a quote from attorney Sprague saying Lindsay isn't paralyzed and can move her legs and feet and hands. And then somebody had commented, wasn't the prosecution questioning whether she was paralyzed for a while as well? Like, the level of stupid to not realize the doctors don't just determine someone is paralyzed by asking them, can you move your legs? No, okay, definitely paralyzed then. It's just unbelievably moronic. Not to mention, Reddington said she is incontinent due to the paralysis, both bladder and bowel. How did they think she would be faking that? And then someone said, yeah, I've seen those comments, like, babe, she's paralyzed, like 3 years on. She's never walked again. Cruel of them. I think that they'll think anything is fair game because they consider her to be a monster, not realizing they are too. And somebody had commented they are drowning in their hate. Um, I was just going through a few of these through these comments. And this is just the last one I wanted to read to you. It says, I don't think Patrick did it, and I know he didn't want Patrick prosecuted in the first place, but it is a common for the families to not attend the trial. I just thought families usually attended out of a sense of wanting justice heard. In this case, I still think it applied if he wants Lindsay to be found NGRI. And then somebody commented, his attendance makes no difference. There is no justice here. He lost everything, his children, his wife, his home, his life as he knew it, his hopes and dreams for the future, his peace in the blink of an eye, essentially. I'm sure he had no desire to listen to a couple dozen medical professionals describe injuries to his children, their efforts to save them, and their autopsies, the examinations of their spongy brains. He's protecting his peace the best way he can. If he had been there every day, there would have been chaos outside the courthouse, people screaming obscenities at him, blaming him. Who knows how bad it might have gotten. He's had paparazzi following him around New York City as it is. I don't know how a person moves on from a loss like that, and I hope I never find out. And then somebody said there's no real indication anyone in either family wants Lindsay prosecuted. It was made pretty clear they didn't want to talk to prosecution experts. I don't think I'd want to endure a trial I didn't necessarily agree with just to hear weeks of testimony about how my kids or grandchildren were murdered. Can't say I blame them. So we are going to stop there. Very short stream today, and like I said, they will start at 9 o'clock this morning, and we will see if we get a verdict today. If not, I guess we'll go into Monday. Going forward over the weekend, or maybe even today yet, we will get back to our regular pod and we will go from there. All right, guys, thanks for joining me, and we will talk as soon as we got a verdict. Talk later. Have a great Friday. Bye.